Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joints.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. In the we need to call this need this place a name, like call it like the Mansion, or you know Andrew Jackson had the Hermitage, or call it the Lodge, or what can we call this place? Richard's humble abode.
I'll come up with an idea for you.
Okay. Very, very good. Welcome, Richard Storch. How are you?
Thank you, Stephen. Happy to be here.
And the big man, Mr. Samuel. You know, nice collar today and dressed nicely.
I was forced to wear a collar over my sometimes, but I was forced to today.
You look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit tight, but it's okay.
Next time I want to see you in a tie. And then maybe the time after that we can add like a little, like maybe some suspenders or something.
I haven't worn a tie since I left school.
Well, we need to work up to it. You're a big podcasting star now, so.
Yeah.
All
How
right.
you going, mate?
I'm good.
All good with you, mate?
All good. All
yeah.
good. Everything's
been a fortnight. Life goes on.
I don't even have time
Back in the
to think
groove.
about how I'm going at the moment because you just
Touch of autumn in the mornings.
balls to the wall.
Just noticed the other morning was a bit of touch. There's a little bit of nip in the air. I thought the last couple of mornings.
No.
And
Best time of the year in Sydney, autumn. Magnificent time of the year.
I tend to like autumn better than spring.
Oh, my oath. I love autumn now to in start of winter. Best time of the year to be in Sydney.
Nice sunsets around April.
Coolish nights, you can sleep. Beautiful days.
Yep.
T-shirt still.
What's going on with the wildlife, Richard?
There's always one.
Where do you live here? Like there's always something going on around here.
There's always something.
All right. So if you want to support us, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee, and if you want to throw us a few dollars, you can head there. It's very popular on the ex-candidates. Unfortunately, it hasn't been. We haven't had any hits on Commanding the Narrative. So if you want to support Commanding the Narrative, please head to Buy Me a Coffee and help us out there. Also, I want to talk about last week. I did a very important episode with Katie McCallum, Jim Wilmot, and Stephen Nowakowski. I'll get that name right eventually, and that it attracted a lot of attention. That interview, it was received very, very well, and rightly so, because what they had to say was very important, giving their perspective from rural areas and regional areas about the destruction that's happening as a result of these renewable projects. So if you want to head back to last week's episode, check that one out, please do. But on today's episode, I'm going to tune out of this one because you guys want to make a huge deal out of the Dunkley by-election, which I thought was a bit of a fart in church, but
anything but I think it'll be seen as quite a significant event in the history of this government. Definitely.
Why?
As much for as what it could have been as what it is. But I think it was a hit on the government, and the government got off very, very lightly. It could have been much, much worse. But they employed someone in the Labor Party knows their history very, very well, and they employed a very good strategy. They made a beautiful link between the Labor candidate, who's Jody Balea, and the former member who died in office, who was very respected, if not venerated and revered. And it's very similar to what Stalin did with his relationship with Lenin. And it's like he managed to propagandize that he'd had this wonderful relationship, where he was the protege, and Lenin was the master, and they had this beautiful sort of relationship. And in actual fact, Lenin had used Stalin's abilities to ruthlessly pursue all the objectives of the Red Terror, and was trying to work out a way of getting rid of him, but he died too quickly. So and the same thing with Roosevelt and Truman. They tried to propagandize that Truman was best buddies with Roosevelt, but in actual fact, Roosevelt had absolute contempt for Truman. He thought he was an idiot and a hayseed, So in a sense, they created this wonderful relationship between Peter Murphy and Jody Balea, which may have actually had some substance, but it equally probably didn't have any substance at all. And that what that did in effect was they managed to hold on to Peter Murphy's very extraordinary personal vote for the large part. So if they hadn't done that, this result could have been very different. It could have been right onto the wire. And so I'm full of admiration for the way that they propagandized this relationship and hung on to the personal vote, but I suspect there was very little substance in it.
My take is I think it's a win. Pragmatist in me, and I think there's a win for everyone. I think the Labor won the seat, which they needed desperately. There was a swing of 4%, a swing of 4% for 3.8. Actually, the Libs that haven't done that well postals. They've tightened up too close. I thought they'd win more with postals. But there was a win for everyone. Once again, the ground, the strategy behind it, the tax-free, stage-free tax cuts changes, the personal vote of Peter Murphy. They just do it so well in Victoria. The Labor Party hate them. The Labor Party trades Hall and one cause Samaras. They know those. They know Victoria.
They get it right. So much.
Get it right. They just they're very, very good in that sort of stuff. Don't know about outside Victoria, but boy, in Victoria, mate, they're cheating on the ball.
Yeah. Just fire up a bit, Sam. We want to hear your voice.
I'm croaky.
You're a bit too relaxed. Just having a chat with your mates.
Yeah, that's right. Just get on the flow and stuff like that, But I just, that one thing, just the narrative and the way Samaras and the Labor movement down there. Gee, it's hard to win seats down there now at the moment. It's just, I don't know how the Liberal Party win or anyone else win down there at the moment, especially in the metropolitan areas.
Look, it's just not the right time. They're not really being marked down for anything yet.
Just,
I don't know how or why, but they're not being marked down.
They're not, no.
And that's why they got that's why they got out of it so easily.
There was no baseball bats looking outside. There's no baseball bats from that. No. I think the reason is because she died. That is a legitimate reason that people are saying, well, I'm not going to swing a baseball bat.
But they also managed it so well by propagandizing this mythical relationship that she had with their new candidate.
No doubt
I'm deeply suspicious of the nature of that.
That might have won the women's vote down there.
Might have got quite a few blokes too.
Oh, I don't know. Males a bit different. I think.
You don't think we're as sentimental?
The tax cut was for the male.
When it comes to women, we're sentimental.
Yeah, but I reckon that's my theory. The women, the the sympathy vote when she passed away,
Mm.
and the tax cut was for the male. And
Did you see what Cameron Milner said about how there was a Chalmers line through the electorate?
Yeah.
He says that, you know, there's this line which is I guess it's an income and demographic line through the electorate, and basically the South swung very hard to the Liberals, and the North the North didn't. And he calls that the Chalmers line, which is based on his view of how effective the tax cuts were and how effective Jim Chalmers was in selling them, which that's the part I dispute.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So I fought around the Liberal areas down the south part of Mount Eliza. I'd be disappointed that they only averaged out to be 50-51% of the Liberal vote. I thought, gee, you think with the Libs, with the UAP and One Nation not running, you think we talked about this off air before last week, mate, and I thought they'd get 55%, 60%, 58% in those couple of those boos in Mount Eliza. Couple of boos. I know they were the smaller boos in Mount Eliza. They were only 800 votes, and they only got 47, 48, where the bigger boos were 50, 52. And even the pre-polling of 4,500 was 50.1.
Well, these are the people that voted against their usual voting pattern to vote for Peter Murphy, and they voted for her twice, not once but twice.
Yeah.
I mean, she really cemented her hold on, you know, the non-aligned areas, shall we say.
This might be for the future part. Well,
he's shaking.
Yes.
The whole table's like.
Will the redistribution affect down that way, you reckon?
Big time. We just don't know where it's going to go.
If it goes more back to the peninsula, there'd be more chance of Liberal winning. But if it goes east,
well, the reason why it was made into a more marginal seat was because they lost Eliza,
which
that are now in
Mornington.
Flinders, Mornington and so on.
Yeah.
So that they lost some good areas and gained some difficult areas to the north.
That were around Curram Downs, down that further north,
the
north of
the unsympathetic end. So,
but there was some. Sure, I was disappointed with the Liberal vote in Mount Eliza, but there's a suburb I read some stuff in, a suburb called Langwarrin, and they say that's tradies territory where and the Liberal vote went into the 40s. So that'd be encouraging news for the Liberals down there, that the tradies are swinging back a bit that way. Tony's tradies and things like that.
That's what they really needed to make a mark on.
Yeah, but
they just didn't move the northern part of the election.
Well, the Curram Downs went up, but they're such a low base. It was 25% to now they're down to 28, 29. So because that was such a low base after 22, so it's not a huge gain there.
Yeah.
So on the Labor side, they won the seat.
Yep,
they did whatever it took to win.
They shed a bit of blood. They had to work hard, but they didn't get thrashed.
No,
they had a credible result. But
would have loved to seen a by-election, say western suburbs of Melbourne, or western suburbs of Sydney, or the northern suburbs of Adelaide, or some seat outside Victoria, and see how they're really tracking. And it's a bit like the Liberal Party in Queensland. They're solid, rock solid there. Where in Victoria, it's rock solid Labor.
Yeah. It's still 15 months to the election.
You reckon he's still after that? You don't think he'll call one in late November, December?
Absolutely.
Well, that's the big question from all of this. Will he go to an early election? You're saying no.
No way.
I still think it's a chance.
I got told months ago that it's going to be a November election. And I think Bernie Finn, I heard him say, he actually gave an actual date the other day. It's late November or something.
Wasn't that in reference to the only possible date?
It's either the last Saturday of November or the first Saturday of December, isn't it?
See, you guys think that Albanese's, got some guts and, he's got some courage. I don't. I think he's a coward.
Well, I could flip it the other way. I could say that maybe he doesn't have the courage to wait longer.
No, he's not. He's not driven like that. He doesn't have that kind of anxiety. Under stress, he becomes a flake.
That's Albanese, but what about the rest of them? I'm sure Albanese is not the sole man making the
Well, he doesn't listen
decision.
to anyone else anyway. So what difference could that make? He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He thinks he knows everything.
In 4 weeks' time might be different. Like there's 2 state by-elections in Queensland. There's a by-election in South Australia. A so-called safe Liberal seat in the
Is that for state or for
state?
Yeah,
It's a guide, and then you've got the Tasmanian election in March 23, which is only only 2 weeks' time. It's going quick. So it's always you get a guide western in there in western suburbs of Queensland.
And do we know when the Cook by-election is going to happen?
I assume the first week of May. I think
The Teals think that they can win that.
I told you, you were the one that telling me the Teals aren't going to run in Cook. I'm like, of course they'll run in Cook.
just to see how they're tracking. I still think I saw a tweet by Holmes of Court saying, "We'll only run if we think we've got a chance of winning."
Of course they'll run.
Who's a candidate? I'm guessing a female with a weird name.
Probably. I don't even know or care. They've got no chance.
With a private school background.
You might get those people who lives in those high rises of Carringbar and stuff like that.
There's not enough of them.
Yeah, maybe. I'll be surprised if he runs because I assume they would do some polling, internal polling, because that's all he's obsessed with, the polling and the data.
Were you happy with the primary votes of Liberal and Labor?
Oh, deep down, 30. What they poll 39.1 with basically no One Nation UAP.
Yeah,
I'm going to pick.
I'd be a touch disappointed.
I'm going to see. I watched the ABC coverage and they were hammering this point. Oh, the Liberals picked up that they've got to swing towards them because the UAP and One Nation were not running, but the Libertarians were running. And the minor parties have had it drummed into them for how many months now? If you're not going to vote one of them, you vote for the other one. So you would have assumed that the UAP and One Nation vote would have gone to the Libertarians. But the Libertarians got 2% or something ridiculous.
2.6.
Which was like 2,000 votes.
What did they poll in 22? Was about 2.4, was it?
Yeah.
So it's only got very margin, 10%.
So
same.
Is it that the Liberal Party picked up the UAP One Nation vote, or have those voters just given up on those minor parties? Because look, the UAP are pretty much done from all accounts, and One Nation is a basket case. And of course, people are going to go back to the Liberal Party.
You're probably right. They probably think it's a bit like I said last podcast. I said the Greens and the Animal Justice Party do as they're told, and they're rusted on. If it's not Greens or Animal Justice, they'll go back to Labor in that priority. I think, as I said, the centre-right parties, they don't go between mateship. They either go One Nation to Liberals, UAP to Liberals. I don't think
because they're disaffected Liberal voters on the majority. There's not that many. I mean, there are a few, like say, One Nation voters that have always voted One Nation for 20 years or whatever it has been. There's not many of those out there.
I've always had a theory that I thought when Labor on the nose, One Nation rate goes up.
It probably does, but the fact of the matter is that the Liberal Party vote should have gone up a fair bit more.
There should have been a 4.
Yeah, it should have been a 4.
But that'd be interesting what the preference flows from the independent comes from, because it could be.
I think there's always a protest vote from Labor voters that go to the minor parties, and they don't necessarily. It's not necessarily a pro-Liberal vote. It's an anti-Labor vote, and it flows back.
Yeah, eventually.
I think there's a fairly fluid movement, but I think what was more interesting was how savagely the Greens vote dropped.
There's a few. If you told me that Saturday night, I thought, gee, that's sunk and it's gone bad. But reviewing and talking, just listening and reading what people say on Twitter and stuff like that, and what some other people say, there was only 80% of the people voted. So the 10% missing, which is 10,000 votes, for example. I wonder if there were a lot of Green voters who couldn't be bothered voting.
There's no way of knowing.
That I'm just saying.
There's no way of knowing. I think there's. I suspect there's a lot of Liberal voters that just thought, not interested in spending my time doing that.
I think a person in Mount Eliza will still vote, and he's half retired. I think he'll still vote regardless. I think it's those working class Labor people in Carrum Downs and
But you always get
all that
these,
part
like,
of Frankston, that northern Frankston.
Yeah, but you always get the same thing with any by-election, which is where there's like a 10% fall in the vote at least, and there was like, I think this is about 12, and it's always because people don't really register that there's an election on. It's not like a general election where everyone knows it's happening.
Yeah.
Well, let's analyse the Greens vote. They were down 4%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Animal Justice picked up 1%.
Yeah.
The Victorian Socialists didn't run last time, so they've picked up 1.7%.
Mm-hmm.
And the Australian Democrats didn't. Oh, I didn't even know they were still around. But they didn't run last time, and they've picked up 1.4%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Green vote, pretty much there.
You're presuming
They've run to the Animal Justice and the Socialists.
You're presuming they didn't come from elsewhere rather than the Greens. I think that's a big presumption.
Well, I mean, what other presumption would you make? Because
with the Victorian Socialists, fair enough. I mean, you're just swapping one type of idiocy for another.
So why did people vote against the Greens?
Why do people vote against them?
Well, okay, maybe let me rephrase that. Why did they abandon the Greens?
This is the interesting question. I don't have an answer for you.
Is it because they?
I mean,
I
I have very few insights into the minds of the Greens voters. I've got to tell you that.
You talk to politicians, especially in New South Wales, and you say, how do the Greens go? He said they keep to themselves.
Yep.
They stay there.
It's always very dangerous when you want to pick one side of a war.
All I'm saying to you, generally most parties all talk to each other.
Mm.
But when you go to nuts, and I think if it happens in New South Wales, it happens the rest of the country.
Mm.
When they have a good result, they'll put their hands up in the air. But when they have a bad result, they go quiet. They go under the bed for a while, and they've been under the bed this week.
That's very true. I've tried to taunt my Greens voting friends into explaining to me why their vote has gone down or things like that.
And when they have a bad
they always refuse. They never want to talk about it.
But when they have a bad result, you never hear bant or they say we don't take interviews. Well,
no.
Hide under the table for a week, or even if they have a bad week in Parliament or something goes wrong from them, they always hide under. They've got the protectors at the ABC and the Guardian and all that sort of stuff, like in the 9 newspapers.
Mm.
They hide for a week or two and they come out of the closet after.
So they change tact.
Mm.
The thing is,
I think they ran dead. I think that's a change of tact. I don't think they put a lot in. I don't think they put anything into this. So that's possibly the biggest reason why they did so badly.
If you look at the bigger picture on the Green side, their biggest test will be out of the next month or so is the Brisbane.
Oh, definitely.
They've been running really hard. That's why they're not running in one of the seats in the by-elections. Ipswich West. They've put all their resources into try and win a few more seats in the the Brisbane the Brisbane local council elections. And so interesting what the sort of vote will be, especially in the southeast of Queensland.
Well, strategically, that's flawless because they've got 3 federal seats, and I don't know how many state seats within the Brisbane City Council.
Yeah.
So they've got to try and sort of homogenize everything and build up some sort of vertical integration between the different levels of government. So, I mean, you can't ever fault their strategy and tactics.
Yeah,
they usually get it right
most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, they might be idiots in any number of 1,000 other ways.
Oh, they're very good at politics, but hard nosed. There's some hard noses. You talk to some people in Macquarie Street, they are real hard nosed, and they're pardon the French, they're tough asses, mate. They go in and they go hard.
I didn't know tough asses was French.
Oh. But they don't say much and they don't tell much. People they don't.
Yeah.
You speak to people in Macquarie Street, they don't say a word.
So if we're going to use this as a barometer for the upcoming federal election, what do you think the election result is looking like at this point?
Well, the fundamental thing is that it's too early to say. This by-election wasn't a true indicator.
Well, then why are you making such a huge deal about it then?
Oh, it's a bit rough.
I think there'll be some nervous backbenchers. if you're sitting on 3%,
Yeah. So what was the data on that? Was it 12 seats? That
10 seats.
10 seats they could lose.
Yeah.
Labor could lose.
I'd say 12. I've gone through my own list, and I'd say 12. But also remember that the Liberals will probably get back Ryan from the Greens, and Labor will probably take Brisbane from the Greens as well, I think. And then there's the Teals. I'd expect the Liberals to get back 4 of the Teal seats. It's 15 months away. It's a long way away.
Although it'd be interesting because the Teals have been quiet since the by-election.
Yeah.
And they'll be doing their data. Their data. Money's not a problem. And they'll run their data, do opinion polls everywhere in these Teal seats, and they'll see the graphs. They've been they do a poll probably once a month or once every second month, and they'll be finding where the polling, how we're polling here and here and there.
But overall, I mean, to answer your question, overall, this, to me, the Dunkley by-election as a 4% swing, which Labor did I think they did very well to get it. So you can transpose that result onto the Australian electorate and presume that Labor is going to lose 10 to 15 seats and find themselves in minority government. And that's a total impasse.
Come back to the Teals. Will the Teals check and go to cost of living, or do they still
change tact?
Sorry, and go cost of living and all that sort? Or do they
they're the ones who are causing the cost of living by all this money going to their stupid renewable project.
What I'm trying to say, do they change tack, or do they still stick to what integrity?
These are women that are not flexible. They won't change anything.
No, but the people behind it aren't flexible too, mate. And they're women. If their bosses, if their people say we do this, and that, they'll do what they're told. Okay. If the data says it's a cost of living problem, they might have to track a bit. I don't think so, but it could happen. I'm just saying.
They're not for changing.
Still like the Greens, we're pure and we're going to run this way all the way through.
Yeah, very
because homes are cause
very similar. They're all Joan of Arcs.
Yeah,
they all want to die for the cause.
But I'm saying, but the people behind them are climate change people, and that's not going to change. I think and the Greens won't. The Greens don't change tack much. You know?
Well, same thing.
But they're
all fanatics, ideologues,
and the Libertarians aren't.
Well, there are two schools of thought on that. I mean, some are very proud to be ideologues. I'm not one of them. Thank you very much for that.
What's
that provocation?
Can I ask? Let's go back to Dunkley. We've both said Liberal and Labor. Let's go on the minor party side. Obviously, and we've said the Greens, and you think that the Greens wouldn't be too worried at the moment. They'll be looking at saying we got the 6%, 3% One Nation, and 1.7 from the Socialists.
Well, they're so self-righteous that say we didn't run hard anyway. Right. So what do we care?
Yeah.
And we're going to concentrate our efforts in the inner cities of the major cities, and that's where our bread can get buttered. You know.
But so the Socialists probably be happy getting 1.7 out of Melbourne. Maybe it'd be interesting there, and come back to that because the UAP and One Nation didn't run. I thought the 2.5% of the Libertarian vote I think they'd be very disappointed.
Well, they're not. They're skiding about it. I think it's saying how wonderful. Oh, we're on the march now. I could have said that in Warringah. I got 2,000 votes as well. I'm on the march too. Here I come, Zali.
That's not what I heard on Tuesday night. No, it was a very underwhelming result by the Victorian branch as far as the New South Wales branch was concerned. There was no quarter asked for or given in terms of the critique. Let me tell you.
Well, if I was a Victorian member, I would tell some person in New South Wales to butt out of it. You know?
I'm sure that might happen, but I can tell you that the response from the New South Wales side will be, "Well, you're not doing so well that you can afford to reject any advice, mate." And that's probably true. I mean, they should have done a lot better.
Yeah.
And the reason that's being put about why they didn't do better was because they were focused on local issues and cost of living instead of big issues like the the climate cultism and alarmism and the renewable energy debacle and the whole energy security issue.
Well, this tweet comes from Jordan Ditloff, who we've had on the ex-candidates before. Nice guy, but he's put this tweet out, and he's the national secretary of the Libertarian Party. He's based down in Victoria. He said, while the dust is still settling on the Dunkley by-election, I want to make an important point to those pondering what it means for libertarians. Anthony Greens, who works for the ABC, pollster and everything, idea that we needed name confusion have been put to bed. Over 2,000 votes in Dunkley support libertarian ideas. Woohoo!
I think that's a stretch.
Yeah.
I've got to say.
But that area, is that part of Limbrick's area?
No, I don't think
In that
No.
Metro South, East Metro South, that's Metro South.
Is it? I
Although
wouldn't know.
that could come into Northern Victoria in the upper house voting.
Yeah, I think. I
That
think
Mornington Peninsula,
yeah.
some parts of the Mornington Peninsula comes onto either Metro South or Northern or Eastern Victoria.
Let's focus on the Liberal Party, because I think this is more important. As a One Nation man, as a Libertarian man, the Liberal candidate Nathan Conroy. What did you like him? What did you think of
We
him?
didn't get much traction up here, but it was more of a local campaign.
No, but obviously you would have seen his speech afterwards, and you would have got a feel for the guy.
But he's only been mayor for 3 years, so he hasn't got the real. Hasn't been there for 10 years.
The question was, what was your vibe of him?
He was a solid campaigner. Solid.
Yeah, I thought he was. I thought he was at least good, if not better than good. But
now the reason I asked this is because that's all they gave the electorate. They gave them Nathan Conroy. They gave them no policies. So what policy? So to have a good candidate, you get to this point, but to get to win government, they've got to take to the electorate good policies. What policies did the Liberal Party need to take to the next election?
The Liberal Party's not prepared to release any policies at all.
Well, they just released
closer
a
to
nuclear agenda.
Why didn't they release that 2 weeks ago?
Well, that's a good question.
Well, I wouldn't be very happy if I was Nathan Conroy, for sure.
At the same time, maybe this was a deliberate strategy. Dunkley was never going to be won. They said, let's just see let's have a by-election on Albo. They were 4% swing, and now that's 12 months out or 15 months out to the election, depends what you go. Then I'm thinking I've read something that there are policies ready to come out. They reckon there's a housing policy coming out, energy policy, and a couple other things, some reforms in tax cuts and stuff like that. So what I've read and what I've heard from tweeting is that basically they're saying that that's ready to go. So that maybe that might come out. Say, you wouldn't think anything would come out till mid-year.
Well, they're already leaking quite a lot of what's going to be.
Actually, the only leaking is the nuclear debate.
No, they're releasing, being able to access at least $50,000 from your super fund unconditionally. Not with all the nonsense that they had for the last 5 years with putting in undeducted contributions and having to pay this there and where and how and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be unconditional. I hope they make it 100,000. I think that'll be of enormous assistance to
I read some reports.
Anybody with a mortgage.
Yeah, I read something the other day about
that's not for first home buyers, mind you. That's for everybody. So I think being able to access superannuation money to reduce your mortgage or to get a deposit is an absolute winner. Because it's your money anyway.
I accept that. Yeah.
And it's like Labor Party do not understand super. They don't get it because it's their idea of super is, that goes to our mates who are going to look after it for you. And maybe in 30 or 40 years, they might let you have it.
And nature and the unions.
In the meantime, we'll decide what happens with it and we'll siphon off a bit for ourselves. We'll do that,
The unions in the finance industry.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah.
As before we were interrupted, I know mates.
We might be coming through. It's just a very bad signal at the moment for some reason. We might just take a break.
Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. Shame on you people. You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joint.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that, everyone. Got some comments from Graham. Welcome, Graham. Thank you for watching again. He said, perhaps make a coffee and do a reset. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen again. But Graham's also said, Dunkley was a missed opportunity. The inflation blowout should have been the main issue, yet very little was said by candidates.
True. I wouldn't know that, but I wouldn't say it's the main issue, but it was certainly an important issue. But it's like the problem is that the political narrative moves on so fast. It's like that's ancient history now.
Yeah.
What, inflation's ancient history?
No, the inflation spike because now it's below 4% or something. So everyone thinks, oh, the problem's solved. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
but that's the perception at the moment. I don't think you could have made it an issue at the by-election. I don't think that at all.
It's almost. I think it could be if we come back to cost of living. I was actually talking to a person in finance, a guy this morning, a good mate of mine. He thinks we're almost got a two-speed economy. You got if you haven't got a home loan, life's going pretty good at the moment.
Sure.
If you've got a home loan, it's tight as anything. It's real hard.
If you got a big one,
you got a big one.
Food's still expensive, and groceries are still expensive.
Exactly.
Rent's expensive.
We did groceries the other day. It usually cost $260, $170. It came up $222 today.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's all just about home owner.
But it makes
rent's incredibly high.
If you're debt free and you live at home and you're at home, debt free, if you live late in your 50s onwards, life's not too bad. If you've got money in the cash, you're getting 4%, 5% interest over 12 months. It's not bad at the moment,
So if you're Richard and you're Sam,
yeah, but
happy days, huh?
I'm just saying it's a bit of a two-speed economy, and it'd be no different if you're out in the western suburbs or in working class. If you're debt free, you won't say that out loud, but
life's not too bad.
Yeah. Sure, it's expensive and all that sort of cost of living, but it's not a monthly loan to the bank, and you've paid that off. You just got tight. You got your money in the savings account now, earning interest. A lot of people in their 60s and 70s were never in superannuation.
But Sam, you forgot about the kids or the grandkids.
That's right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's like if people have got that, it's a totally different ball game. Like Steve.
I think that's some parts of it. Country people, if you're debt free, it's not too bad. You're not too bad. If you got a home loan, you're in big trouble. You got to pay it off.
That's right.
It's sort of it is almost like a two-speed economy.
But it's not going to stay where it is now. It's going to keep on evolving, and I think that for people that have got cost pressures now, it's not going to get easier.
No, it's not getting easier.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah. Do you think the Liberal Party is ready to debate this nuclear issue? I'm going to ask that because I saw
they've got to distinguish themselves differently to what you can't be Labor-like.
Well, I think they need to get their ducks in a row because I think it was Bridget McKenzie and she was debating Zali Steggall on Sky News, and Zali said, well, where are you going to put these things? Are you going to put them in people's backyards? And the obvious answer is you put them on decommissioned coal stations and just plug it straight into the grid that's already there. That's the easy answer. But the Liberal Party woman couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
She just fussed and talked about other things. I'm like, that's the clear answer. You put them on the you put them on decommissioned coal plants.
Yeah.
That's where you put them. A lot of them have been blown up anyway, so you just put the nuclear plant right there.
Well, Liddell's getting pulled down at the moment. I went down past Liddell about at the end of a month ago, and it's half knocked down already.
And a lot of those communities, they want these nuclear plants because it's all about
they're different people. Different people are not tradies. They're technicians, nuclear technicians.
But what I'm trying to say is
they still want the industry there.
The components of a coal plant is not that dissimilar to a nuclear plant. At the end of the day, you're still just producing steam to turn a turbine.
Very, very true.
So they're not losing employment. The people that worked on coal power stations could potentially move over to nuclear plants.
Yeah, that's
quite
happened
easily.
overseas. Yeah. They've been retrained. Coal power station workers have been retrained.
So a lot of these communities, they say, put the plant here, so we've got work.
Yeah.
This is what the Liberal Party should be arguing. As soon as someone like Zali Steggall gets up and says something like that, bang! There's a message straight away.
Yeah.
Not you know what? We're going to consult this and that. No, you put them right there.
Was it Susan Lay who dropped the ball there?
No, I think it was Bridget McKenzie.
Oh, okay.
She was a national, actually.
They're not quite.
They're gonna have to improve.
They're going to have to, because this is an easy one for them.
Well, they want to have a fight, so they want to make sure they know where to hit someone.
Yeah.
Well, Zali Steggall would be the first one to hit. I would think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If they want to have a debate and win a debate.
Yeah, well, she should be like a wet brown paper bag.
She wouldn't,
Yeah,
unless she's
you know.
been advised to say yes, this and that. She's.
I mean, talk about shallow and vacuous.
Well, the other thing she was saying, oh, you know, it's too expensive for Australia. Well, how come all these other countries in the world have nuclear power?
There's absolutely no substance to that argument. It's like you've got what 33 countries in the process of building nuclear power stations.
Plus, we have
They're all idiots.
We've got all the uranium that we could possibly think of. We've got all the thorium, if we wanted to use thorium, it's there as well.
And wastage storage, we can just build something around Narralinga, build a hole a mile down, and put all your storage down there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people imagine nuclear waste storage is like, you know, it's going to fill up a warehouse. It's usually like a can of Coke.
It is a Coke can for each person. That's the amount of nuclear waste. We talk about it all the time on the ex-candidates. Adam even made up little Coke cans with a nuclear symbol on them.
That's right.
That's your allocation of waste if you were going to go down the nuclear path for your whole life. And I always use the analogy, when you were born, your parents could take you to the local nuclear plant, say, hey, little Johnny just got born here. Can you please allocate his little Coke can of waste? They take down a little Coke can, they put it in the reactor. He walks away and never has to think about energy ever again.
Yep.
That's right. Nuclear waste.
You don't need solar panels covering acres and acres and acres of farmland and wind farms tearing down rainforests up in Queensland and offshore wind farms in Port Stephens and these other areas. You just build a nuclear plant on a decommissioned coal power plant. Those coal workers power station workers can now work in that nuclear plant. And the wastage, as you said, is small.
Yep.
Dig a hole at Maralinga, middle of nowhere. No one lives there because it's been still there from 50 years later. And just dig a hole a mile down, concrete it up, and bang, there's your nuclear waste dump.
And as
it'll be dug up in 100 years because they'll have worked out how to reprocess it, and it'll be valuable. So dig it up and reprocess it.
Well, what about
it's like, I mean, you're talking about a technical issue in terms of we don't know how to refine the waste into the metals that it came from. But it's like in 100 years' time.
Hang on. I mean, there's probably a calling it waste is probably not completely accurate. You're digging the uranium out of the ground
where it's toxic in the first place. Yes.
Well, radioactive.
Yeah.
Enriching it, putting it in a reactor, depleting it, and then it comes out at the end of it, you can put it back potentially where it came from.
True. No argument for me. The other thing that I find enormously annoying is people imagine that you're going to be building these massive, great coal fusion
the Chernobyl model.
Well, the Chernobyl model didn't have a concrete zone. That was part of the problem. When it blew up, it just blew up. Yeah. There was no protection because
has that been concreted yet? Has that been done?
Yeah.
So it's finished, is it? So it's no more spewing out stuff.
No. Yeah. They've got a nice national park around it.
Yeah, you're trying to compare a 1984 Commodore computer to an iPhone.
1955.
Probably 1955. That was taking up a whole warehouse.
These days they have walkaway safe systems where you don't even need someone up. You can just walk away, go on holidays while there's a meltdown, and I don't even think it melts down into containment facility or tank or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, what we're talking about is small modular reactors like Canada's building. See, I mean, all these idiots carry on like we've got all the answers. You know, Canada's the closest country to us in the world, and they've had a nuclear program since the 50s. They get so much power from, I think most of their power comes from nuclear. They've done away with coal.
Sure.
You know, the energy costs are half of ours. And they're building, 6 modular reactors, I think, at the moment. But so they have made every decision right over the last 70 years. And then some idiot in Australia goes, no, it's too expensive. Well, how come they got it right and we got it wrong? That's the question that needs to be asked.
Yeah.
How come Canada have got everything right and we have got everything wrong?
Or France at 70% nuclear.
That's probably good.
I don't like talking about the French at all.
I feel they've got this one right. They've got that one right. 70% nuclear, and
they're selling energy to Germany, who's blown up all there.
That's right.
Aren't the Canadians partly French?
Yeah, on the western side. Yeah. Good point. Good point. But yeah, for example, there's some nuclear sites right next to these pristine vineyards in southern France. No one talks. None of the French talk. Oh, it's going to destroy my vineyards.
Well, remember what
my
happened.
vines.
Remember what happened when they had to recondition Lucas Heights. Right, there was enormous uproar. Do we really want a reactor, so close to Sydney, stuff like that? So Bob Hawke was running it at the moment, and they said, just talk about the third runway for Sydney Airport, and where we're going to put the airport, if we're going to put the second airport in. So there's all this talk about how they're going to put a second airport at Holsworthy. Everyone just freaked out about that. And then quietly they reconditioned Lucas Heights because nuclear reactors are quiet. Airports are not.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
beautiful, beautiful politics.
We've had Paul Vallejo on before, and he's an expert in nuclear.
Yeah.
And he said that if you're looking at a nuclear plant and a coal plant, there's more radiation coming out of the coal plant than there is the nuclear plant because the amount of, the coal's in the ground. So there's a nuclear element. A radioactive element to anything that's in the ground.
Sure.
And he said that there's probably more radioactivity around a coal plant than there is a nuclear plant.
And you're not even talking about all the contaminants from coal mining or any mining.
Yeah.
There's plenty of contaminated sites all around Sydney from industry. We've managed to screw up the largest single aquifer in the whole of Australia, which is the Botany Aquifer. It's completely unusable because of all the heavy metals that leached into it from Unilever and Orica.
Well, that's why too, they didn't want to build those coal mines on the Liverpool Plains a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I can understand now why they didn't do it now because of all the underground aquifers.
Yeah,
would have been drowned, and it would have been our food source would go down by 30-40%.
Yeah.
Any closing comments on the Dunkley by-election? Because I want to move on to another issue.
No, overall, I think I said it's a win-win for everybody. I think to a point, disappointing that Liberal didn't get the 40% mark, and I think, and Richard might disagree, I still think it was a disappointing result for Libertarians.
I don't disagree with you at all. The word on Tuesday was that we should have been campaigning on big issues.
Right.
So until we resolve that conflict of strategy in terms of what we want to talk about and how much we want to talk about it, we're not going to kick any goals.
At the same time, if
a 2.5% result is not kicking a goal, that's a bit of a hammering, I reckon.
Got some comments here on the Rumble, so I can't post them, from Peachy. Peachy says, do you think voters will change who they voted for based on policy, or do the majority vote for a team regardless of the policies?
I think you'd have to say that the majority vote for a team, but
it's the swing voters.
It's the swing voters that vote on issues.
Yeah. There's another comment. I'll just follow up with this other comment from Peachy as well.
Yeah.
At polling, people just come in vote team red or blue. Friends will whinge about the cost of living and still vote for the same year after year. How do you get the message through? Or again, Peachy's right. People treat political parties like football teams, which is wrong, but they'll all say, oh, I always vote Liberal, I always vote Labor, blah, blah, blah. But it is those swing voters that you want to.
It's those bottom,
it's the 20% in the middle,
or the bottom 25% who watch Albo's face for years, and another year, and they might say, "I'm getting sick and tired of that face. I think it's time we need a change." And instead of going, that might go 65-35 for a normal year, but when if there's a change of government or they're running out of steam after 10 years, it goes the other way. I think those bottom 25% who don't give a stuff about politics. So I'm sick and tired of that face. I think we need something new.
I think you do get standout election results in response to Peachy as well, where you get a result. I guess the last one we had was probably Abbott in 2013, where he managed to convince a lot of people that weren't Liberal voters to vote Liberal.
But that was all dysfunction of Gillard Rudd too at the end.
Well,
Well, he had the Howard Battlers in
way,
96.
either way, it was still a very compelling result.
Yeah.
Like we've had very narrow results. Like, I mean, the way Albo carries on, you'd think he had a majority of 20 seats. I mean, he's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, some people, you read the pollsters and all that sort of stuff on Twitter, pretty objective people at the same time. They said they reckon in this country now there won't be a party that will have 90 seats. They think the best result will be 78 to 82.
With a good leader, they could do it. We just haven't had a good leader for a long time. We've forgotten what it's
Parliament
like.
has to be expanded. That will happen. Let me assure you. There'll be another party with 100 seats.
All right, let's move on because another
2.5% of the vote.
not too.
Another big event that happened politically that's flown under the radar, in my opinion, is Craig Kelly's move to One Nation.
Yeah.
Is the reason why it's flown under the radar because the media always ignore the minor parties if it's a good story, or is it just that it's not that interesting?
A bit of both.
They don't. The media don't even think about minor parties. They really don't.
So is Craig Kelly a spent force?
We don't know the real story. What everyone's saying UAP ain't gonna run.
So you knew about this before it happened. You kept a good secret, didn't you?
I got told.
You got good informants.
I got told 5 days before. I was shocked. Well, pardon. You know, I got told on the Thursday night, and I rang you 11 o'clock Thursday night. And you were just as shocked as I was. And my informant is again on the doddle, isn't he?
Yes, on the money.
He was on the money as usual. He don't get anything wrong. Yeah. So I was shocked when did I tell you?
I don't remember.
Okay, I just said you didn't tell anyone. You've been telling.
I think I told you. I thought I told you.
You know when you tell me something confidential, I forget it straight away.
And I told a liberal.
I forget when you tell me. I forget.
Okay,
I just remember it.
Here you go, Richard. What's the future of the United Australia Party?
I don't think it has one.
Doesn't have. It's gone. Done.
Yeah,
Finished.
I think so. I mean, my grandfather used to have a favorite saying about consignment business. In other words, when he'd apply it, and he'd say, "A long sickness means a sure death." And the UAP has looked sick for a long time.
But
so I don't see where it can come back from.
Well,
where it can go to.
It had such great people involved in it. Where do they go?
They're coming to us.
Oh no, they.
I think you'll get split everywhere.
Most of them are coming to us. Most of our candidates have run for UAP.
Why didn't they come back in the by-election?
What do you mean?
Why didn't that UAP vote go to the...
You're asking me to comment on things that happened in Victoria. I'm not even interested in Victoria.
We've just spoke for an hour of it. Yeah. I think he'll split the bid to Libertarian, split to One Nation, but I think probably 50-60% will go back to... And if Dutton campaigns well for the next 12 months, 60% will go back to the Libs.
You're presuming they came from the Libs. That's a big presumption.
Will any of it go to One Nation? Will they follow Craig?
Yeah, a little,
yeah,
a little.
Yeah, not.
We'll get more than anyone else. They're not going back to the Liberal Party.
You Libertarians are insufferable.
I think that they.
You guys are always skiding about things that haven't happened yet.
Well, what else can we do? We haven't actually done much. So what do you want me to say?
Well, I assume coming back to Craig.
We haven't been going for 100 years. Like
you've been going for 20 years.
So what? We virtually we're sort of dragging ourselves up onto our feet for the first 15.
Another question about the we'll stay on Craig. I've got a question for you later on. But
no, answer it now. I'll ask it now.
Is the Australian Taxpayers Alliance involved officially with the Libertarians?
Gee, I don't know.
Because funny,
have a look who runs it.
John Humphreys.
And even if I did, I still wouldn't tell you. And So, you've always got, when you ask me a question like that, Sam, you've got to work out whether
I should have told.
whether I know or whether I don't know, and whether I'm going to tell you whether I know.
It was funny on there was a Sky program last Sunday night on the on the one that Danica DeGiorgio's on. There was a bloke from the Taxpayers Alliance, Australian Taxpayers Alliance in chair. I've looked at that person. I said, "Gee, rings a bell."
They must have some money because they've been doing a lot of advertising and expensive advertising as well, like billboards that cost tens of thousands of dollars a week. So they must have some money. But I want to
go back to one point about the by-election, and that was Advance Australia.
Oh, we moved on from the by-election.
No, we're going back.
I forgot that too. I think it's important.
All right.
I think it's important because they spend a lot of money. They had a strategy, and I think it absolutely, it absolutely failed.
I think they went too hard on. I think they went too hard on the border issues.
Yeah,
especially in Victoria.
But I think that high advertising, high spend, that whole marketing approach is not the way to go. They need to get boots on the ground and do campaigning.
No, I mean, it's about messaging. You need to give people something. What's in it for me? People are going to want, but people don't want to just hear you attack someone else. They want to know, okay, well, if you're going to get in, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to address my cost of living issues? How are you going to address my housing affordability issues? Are you going to make the country safer? Are you going to protect the borders? Are you going to provide a future for my children? That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear you attack the other side, really. At the end of most people.
Look, they made a few mistakes. They'll look back on it. Maybe they got too much money. Maybe they had to spend some money.
See, essentially, they were successful in the voice because they were giving a message. Hey, we're going to push back against this, and we're going to save the country by doing so.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy in any sort of political endeavor to think that if you're spending money or doing something, it doesn't necessarily follow.
Maybe the border issues and all that sort of stuff doesn't resonate in Victoria.
Look at Climate 200. They spend a lot of money, but what's their message? We're going to save you from climate change. We're going to be the only ones that will do anything. All these white men that are in that parliament there, they're going to do nothing to save your children. We're going to do it. Yeah. We're going to put intelligent, strong women there, and they're going to change of integrity and
with zero political baggage and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that sort of thing. That's the message.
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
It was almost
why am I voting for these Teals? Oh, well, they're going to look after my kids and they're going to save the planet. And they're going to bring integrity to the system. And there's going to be no more fighting in Parliament. What you see in Question Time when they're acting like children, that's not going to happen. It's going to be kumbaya, and we're all going to get on, and we're going to do good things for the country. That's what the message is.
It's all marketing. And it's sold a message to a certain demographic in a certain area.
Well, anyone in advertising will tell you that the same pitch only works for so long.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said before. Are they going to still campaign on that sort of stuff in 12 months' time?
I hope so.
All right, Sam. So you were right about Kelly moving to One Nation, but the second part of that, you did have a second piece of information that hasn't happened yet. So I might just play this clip right now that will kind of allude to what I am talking about, because Craig Kelly moving across to One Nation is not completely just an easy move, is it?
You've got a challenge in your home state of New South Wales where two of the three state MPs have left One Nation, one of them, of course, being the leader, Mark Latham. And there are suggestions that the remaining Upper House MP, Tania Mihailuk, will leave the party with you as federal director. Have you had a word to her? Is she going to stick around or not?
Yeah, look, Tanya's going to stick around. I've known Tania. She was actually the Labor member for Bankstown.
Okay, so he's saying that she's going to stick around. But before we get an answer from you, Sam, I want to play a little bit later in the interview because Chris Kenny picks him up on that same topic a little bit later in the interview, and this is what Craig has to say.
So just clarify this for me. You've spoken with Tania Mihailuk, the Upper House One Nation MP in New South Wales, and she's committed to staying with the party?
I haven't spoken to Tania personally the last couple of days, but I know Tania well. I've spoken to her
She's going to stay, but I haven't talked to her yet.
Well, I think Parliament resumes next week,
Mm.
and I reckon if she's had enough, she'll bail out.
Do you reckon she'll do it while she's in Parliament?
Yeah. She said, I think, I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I reckon she's looking at her political career post 27, and I think deep down that she says, well, if I can't trust Kelly and I can't trust some people in Queensland, I might as well bail out in 27 and tie up, lose something, One Nation lose that money, administrative funds.
Well, I'll be saying ding dong, the witch is dead if that ever happens. But Richard, what does Ralph Babet do?
I have no idea. I mean, I really don't.
Could he move across to One Nation and they have 3 senators?
I don't think he's a One Nation kind of guy. I think he'll move across to Libertarians if he goes.
Oh, no.
However, I don't think that'll happen. I think it stays.
No, it won't happen because what's the advantage of that happening? He'll just stay UAP. The whole point of moving across to One Nation is that you strengthen something that's already there. There's no libertarian.
There's no strength in One Nation in Victoria. Period. End of story. Anyway,
that's true.
Well, they have a Victorian upper house member.
They're about as popular in Victoria as a ham sandwich at a Jewish picnic.
Well, what's Ricky Lee Tyrrell doing there then?
I have no idea.
She got there on a mistake, that sort of stuff like that. They polled.
I mean, you should hear what Victorians say about One Nation. That's like,
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, it's like they
It resonates in some parts of country, Victoria.
it's the total antithesis of Queensland. And the great irony is that there's no 2 groups of Australians closer together than Queenslanders and Victoria. They're both parochial, aggressive, and demeaning towards all other Australians.
I think Victorians are a bit more globalist now.
Peachy says on the Rumble, Peachy says, my source says no, but I hope she does. I'm assuming she's talking about Tania Mihailuk there.
Yeah, I think so.
So looks like Peachy's got some sources as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
If Kelly says I'm not interested in state politics, and deep down I think if you've been in federal parliament for 10 years like Craig has, do you really, really want to go to New South Wales?
Mark Latham did.
Yeah, but he had a huge overarching interest in education.
Yeah.
So he really had a whole sort of narrative about why he was there. What he was there to do.
Let me ask you this: if the Libertarians are so fantastic and everyone wants to jump on the Libertarian bandwagon, how come Craig Kelly didn't?
Yeah,
that's a really good question. But I would say that he's probably got much more upside with One Nation. I'd say that's the short answer.
Well, then why wouldn't Ralph Babet?
I think it comes back to the Victorian disdain of One Nation. It would not be a smart move.
He's still got he's not up for re-election in 12 months' time, so you probably look at the results and say, okay, UAP didn't run, and either Libertarian got 4.5% and One Nation got 2%, or vice versa.
See, Victorians are aberrant and strange compared to the rest of the country. Yeah, the DLP
lost our Victorian audience.
The DLP would probably have a resurgence in Victoria because
DLP. That's interesting.
The Democratic Labour Party. Yeah,
the old Bob Santa Maria stuff.
It's like they were actually going quite well until they sort of had this sort of silly sort of entanglement with Darren Hinch.
Bernie Finn almost got elected running with the DLP.
Yeah, well, he's the real.
Came within a whisker.
He's the real deal with religion. So, that may not be the right direction for the DLP to go in.
Well, he's moved across the family first now, anyway. So,
yeah.
Well, he knows how to get. He'll know. He knows the system back to front in Victoria with group voting tickets. So, he'll know what to do and what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you might, that's another example. You might actually get a resurgence in Family First in Victoria. It wouldn't happen anywhere else in Australia, but it might happen there because they're also weird down there.
Well, Lyle Shelton, I know for a fact, Lyle Shelton said they were surprised they got 2% of the vote, upper house vote in Victoria. He said,
well, he was telling you the truth.
Yeah, and And I was a bit surprised myself. Although some of my info in Victoria through One Nation people down there, they thought there is a bit of religious people and in the rural areas.
Well, tell us about your info from New South Wales One Nation people. Craig Kelly has been assigned to finding 151 candidates around the whole country, obviously, but we've seen what's happened to New South Wales One Nation, how it's been decimated with so many good people leave. How does he rebuild? Is it easy to rebuild it? How does he rebuild it? Can he bring some people back to the party? Can he?
Well, that's what he's trying to. I don't know what is he going to recruit UAP people across? Is he going to find out? He's got a big job ahead for the next 12 months. Is the priority? Where's the priorities? Priority New South Wales is the priority. Worst comes to worst.
That's an interesting point. I mean, a lot of UAP people, have a lot of time for him, and they will follow him. They won't necessarily go to One Nation, but they'll follow him.
That's right.
Peachy's added another comment. Yeah. Source said she is going.
That's
going to be fun.
Well, Peachy, that means her political career will stop in 2027. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Good point.
Does she and what's her?
Well, she's already said on the floor of Parliament she was almost begging to go back to the Labor Party.
Really?
Didn't you see that clip?
No.
That clip was about 12 months ago. Well, she made a few mistakes.
Well, no, it wasn't 12 months ago because he only got elected 12 months.
9 months ago.
And Rose Jackson said no. Not in your life.
You got that on Hansard. That wasn't the video.
Rose Jackson.
No, I saw the footage of it.
Okay.
Rose Jackson could take over from Pauline Hanson. She's tough enough.
Oh, mate. Tell you what. I wish I could bring up that clip of Rose Jackson.
Corey Bernardi said a good word on Twitter about Pauline. She says, like, he recruited another ex-Labor person for the Western Australian up out in the 12 months' time, wherever it is. And said, he said what's happened around the country. Said, you got to admire Pauline. She's been kicked around. She's been booted. She's done everything. You got to give her 20 out of 10 for perseverance and keeping out.
Fortitude, courage. Yeah,
that's right.
Hard work. Yeah.
A lot of people have sunk her down, but she gets up and dusts the pocket.
This might be it. I'll just play this. I don't know if this is exactly the right clip or the right, but this is. If it is.
And integrity of Mr. Jeff Drayton, who is unable to be here to do that himself.
Not yet.
Unlike the mover of this motion, Jeff Drayton has had a real job. He's worked as a linesman for Energy Australia. So whilst Mr. Latham was climbing the greasy pole, Jeff Drayton was climbing power poles to keep our lights on. He's actually worked in a coal mine. He knows the industry. He's not interested in the pathetic dress-ups that's not fooling anyone. The mover of this motion, Mr. Latham, has the softest hands in Macquarie Street, sitting around writing the next edition of his journal of the Latham Diaries, another bestseller, I'm sure. Dear Diary, he writes, today someone said partner instead of husband. I'm devastated. The hero of the working class, he took a break from reading postmodern cultural Marxism, whatever the hell that is, to go to the footy, but he sits up in the corporate box with his new mate, the Deputy Premier. What's the bet? He ate the pie with a knife and fork. He wants to come in here and spread lies. But of course, it shouldn't surprise me because this member has a history on picking on people who aren't able to defend themselves, like our overworked public school teachers, on grieving mothers like Rosie Batty, like young gay and lesbian kids, like 65-year-old swim teachers who were harangued and humiliated by this member at a public pool. The poor woman, visibly shaken, just happened to be Steve Waugh's mum. That's the character of the man launching this
right, Jeff.
attack.
That's right,
Those are the types of people he targets. The classic bully,
We've moved on
too
from
gutless to go after anyone other than people who can't defend himself. The mover of this motion is a loser and a failure. A failure as federal parliamentary Labor leader, a failure in the ALP, a failure in the Liberal Democrats, a failure as a media commentator. How do you even get sacked from Sky News for putting neo-Nazis on air?
A couple of things I've got to say. The first thing,
I'm trying to find the part where she goes, he can't even shake someone's hand like a normal person. That's the best part. I don't know where it is, but I'll
Did he reply back?
not that I know of.
All right.
Not that I know of. Anyway, we better wrap it up. But any final comments?
Come back to Craig Kelly. It's only a short-term contract, the next 12, 15 months. And deep down, it'll probably end up in tears some to a point.
Well, I didn't bring this up, but there's an article by Anthony Green about, I think it's 38 members that have been elected to all the different parliaments around Australia for One Nation, and I think only 3 of them are left. Where are the other 35? It's all ended in tears. So what does Craig Kelly think that's going to happen to him?
Well, for Craig's thing, it's a short-term contract.
Where does he go after this? He's been in the Liberal Party. He's been in UAP. He's been in One Nation. I'm sure
Sky
the
News.
Libertarians will have him, but
Sky News.
Go to the Australian Taxpayers Alliance.
All right, Richard. Any final comment?
Yeah, I want to just make the point that I think, in conclusion, the Dunkley by-election points to a pretty devastating result for the Labor Party in 12 to 15 months' time, where they lose sort of around about a dozen seats and go into minority government. And that is going to be, undiscovered country for the whole country.
What's more dangerous for Australia, a Labor government or a Labor minority government that they have to be beholden to the Teals and the Greens?
I don't necessarily agree with the typification. They won't be beholden to the Teals. They will be the town bike. Anybody will be able to do with them what they want.
Depends how big.
What's the difference?
It's like, no, anyone can do it. The Greens, the Teals,
Depends if
the
they're on-
independents. They're going to need it. They're going to need everything from everybody.
Depends if they're on 73 seats or 67.
Yeah, it'll be more like 67.
Long way out, mate. Long way out.
Well, I'm just saying we're heading on there on a
Well, they
trend
can't
line.
lose any more seats in Queensland. Really, they might lose a seat if they're on the nose in Queensland.
They will lose a seat.
Where?
Blair. They'll lose Blair.
They reckon Newman.
They'll lose Lions in Tasmania. They'll lose a whole raft of seats all around New South Wales and Western Australia. They'll probably lose one in South Australia. They'll probably lose a couple in Victoria. So it's not that hard to lose 12 seats.
Not on the first term government. I think Australians don't like making mistakes.
You're not seeing how many seats aren't up for grabs because they're held by Teals or independents or the Greens. That makes it much more marginal. There's not a lot of seats up for grabs. If you lose a dozen, it's like losing 20 years ago.
Fair enough. Okay.
So the numbers will work differently. Anyway, in answer to your question, it's much worse for Australia if we have a minority government because of all the deals that have to be done. It's like no one's got any strength. Everything's up for negotiation. Nothing will get done.
Although this works in New South Wales Parliament, Labor put their hand out to the Liberal Party and try and do deals. It's good for the country and isolate the others.
Absolutely, but you're talking about a very, very different kind of leader.
Yes, Chris Minns is a big difference.
Very different kind of leader. I mean,
he's from the right and he's from the left. Yeah.
No, he's just got a brain and he knows how to use it.
Yeah. No, I just think that maybe what Albo might do is reach the arm out of Dutton. So this we can, and it's a long way out. We can.
Well, didn't that happen recently with?
You only have to read Hansard in the New South Wales Parliament. There's very rarely a vote. It's done. It's basically said. It says, we agree with the Liberal Labor Party. Ayes, aye, no, nothing. Next.
So you mean there's not really a division?
No, because both the majors agree.
It's a predetermined result.
The only time,
it's like, why are we here? Why didn't we just sign a piece of paper and not
So,
bother turning up.
essentially-
You'll find if you talk to some of these people in Macquarie Street, and it happens a bit in South Australia too.
So essentially, what you're saying that the what could save the country, whether Labor is in a minority government or the Liberal Party win, is the Liberal Party.
No, it's government by consensus.
That's right. Yeah,
it's government by the two major parties actually working together and isolating all the others.
Yeah.
That's actually a possibility.
Because that's
I don't think it's likely, but I do think it's a possibility because there's already examples of it.
If Chalmers was Prime Minister, he wanted to do some reforms. He wanted to get some consensus.
If Chalmers was a Prime Minister, he'd have a nervous breakdown.
Oh, but I'm just saying.
And I mean, someone like Andrew Charlton, who's got some real substance and brain. I mean, Chalmers is pretty shallow and he doesn't really know very much. He's just incredibly conceited.
I'm just saying.
Peachy says on the chat they will lose Patterson.
Yep, I agree with that.
Obviously,
there's no way they can hold on to Patterson with the redistribution.
Well, where's that going to go?
Well, it'll go north
towards
Taree, and it'll shed all its southern areas like Curry and Maitland to Hunter. So, I mean, there's no way they can hold Patterson. And the shame of it is that the Labor member for Patterson is I'm part of the fan club,
because
Meryl Swanston, she's
from the
fabulous.
Right. She's from the right.
I mean, she's as tough as 10 blokes.
Yeah, because that redistribution will, especially in that Hunter Valley where they say the odds are that Muswellbrook and Singleton will go into New England, into Barnaby territory.
They have to.
Yeah.
The numbers will push them. Anyway, we're staying too long.
I disagree. I reckon that remote seat will go south, won't go further east. But we can
Which remote seat?
The big seat of Parks. Parks stops at Dubbo. I reckon it'll go down.
No, you don't understand the AEC. The AEC always take the path of least resistance, and they do stupid, facile, expedient things, and that's why they get themselves into messes. And then it takes them 7 years to have another chance to correct the mess they created in the first place.
Look, I think once that distribution happens, I'm sure we'll have a whole hour and a half long podcast dissecting it all in
2 hours.
We can have some really good arguments then.
I'm really looking forward to that. But
that's about mid-year.
Okay, well,
it's only 3 months, mate.
Very good. Well,
it could be our grand final.
We'll oh god! If you want to support us, jump on to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars if you want. We would greatly appreciate it if you do. If not, that's all good as well. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for contributing. Peachy and Graham on the chat. It was great to see your comments, and sorry about the connection issues, but that's what we put up here in the mansion. Got a big episode coming up on the ex-candidates on Sunday night, Jody Lowy and Professor Ian Brighthope. So that will be at 6 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. That's Sydney time. If you're in Queensland, it'll be 5 p.m. Stay tuned for that one. That should be a massive episode. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.